Good day to all. We'll now go to Module 2 of WACC. So basically, we'll be discussing here the after-tax cost of debt. So we have 4 parts: the return on debt, the new debt, if silent, and the flotation cost. Then we'll also be discussing cost of preferred stock and cost of equity, internal and external equity. Next, we begin with the after-tax cost of debt. Okay, basically, or in principle, the cost of capital or cost of funds obtained either in the form of debt, preferred stock, or common stock, the cost depends on the return required by investors, because the money that we receive, the amount that we need to pay for that, depends on what the investors require. So for debt, if the creditors or bondholders will require a higher interest rate, then we have a higher cost of debt. That's why we begin with the rate of return of debt, which is represented by the interest rate or the market interest rate, and the one that we computed in valuation of bonds, the YTM. Remember, what are the ways in computing for the YTM? So there are 2 ways. The exact YTM, we use either the financial calculator or you can use the Excel file function, or the one that we've used using the YTM formula, the estimate, in which the formula, if you can remember, is okay, very good. It's your coupon plus amortization of discount minus amortization of your premium. The one that we've used is the bond price minus the face value over the number of years or life of the bond, all over quantity 0.6 times the bond price plus quantity or 0.4 times the face value. Okay, to give you a deeper background or additional information about the YTM, so Gitman gives 3 representations of the YTM. First is the market quotations. Actually, these are the market rates seen in the sources in the market. Okay, remember we have quotations for bond price. There are also quotations or interest rates in the market. Next is the exact YTM. So that is the using the financial calculator or the Excel file. Actually, as I mentioned to my classes before, the YTM, exact YTM, is similar with IRR in capital budgeting. And the last is the YTM approximate. That's using the formula. But the good thing here is that the formula used by Gitman, as you can also see in other references or other sources, instead of using the constant 60-40, Gitman uses 50-50. Okay, so based on published data, so based on Gitman, it's 50-50. Actually, the 60-40, if I when specifically faculty members, new faculty members teaching into kung saan nanggaling yung YTM formula, actually the formula came from so we need to recognize Sir Bobadilla 60-40. If you can see, it is in his reviewer. Okay, I have not seen it in other sources, either hard copy book or internet. But the good thing about this 60-40 is that it's much closer than the 50-50. That's why this YTM formula, may it be 50-50, 60-40, or another ratio, is a good thing to, or a good topic for research. So if someone is interested, then you can talk with me about this one, so we can work on this one as a research topic. Okay. Next is on the after-tax computation of the cost of debt. So we deduct the tax, or there's a tax effect for debt, because when we have a debt, we have interest expense. This interest expense is deducted to get the net income, the income before tax. Hence, this lowers the income before tax, lowers the tax to be paid. Hence, we have tax savings. Okay, so basically, if you're the borrower or from the point of view of the corporation, your cost is the interest expense, but because this interest expense lowers the tax, so you have tax savings. You have expense minus the savings, so you have the net cost. Okay, that's why we adjust for taxes. So the after-tax cost of debt is the interest rate, RD, times 1 minus tax rate. Next is on the Sample illustration. Okay, so this is the problem. So your interest rate is 8%, the tax rate is 30%. So basically, it's easy to compute for the after-tax cost of debt. It's 8% times 1 minus 30%, or 0.7, you get 5.6%. So that is your after-tax cost of debt. Next is on the cost of new debt. Remember, the primary reason why we study WACC is for investing purposes. So meaning, we want to invest. So mag-i-invest ka pa lang. So the money pertaining to the amount to the investment, meaning the money, the financing, is an amount not yet raised. So i-raise pa lang. So it pertains to the new debt, not to the outstanding debt. Okay? So our focus on the cost of debt is the cost of the marginal debt. The cost of the debt that you will about to raise, or you will still raise, not the one that you have already raised, not the historical cost of debt. However, if silent, and at times it's difficult to determine the interest rate or the market rate for the debt that you will incur, so we can assume that the cost of current debt, meaning your interest rate on the debt that you have on your balance sheet, is the same with the cost of new debt. And at times, it's really the same, meaning the interest rate on the amount that you borrow in your outstanding debt will be the interest rate on the amount that you will still borrow in the future. Next slide, actually, aside from this slide is the most interesting for me. Aside from the fact that I really got a good picture for this one. In this slide, we'll be discussing some conflicting views, or it's a gray area. That's why it's also a good topic for research. So if someone would like to study this as their thesis, then you can deal with it, because I really want to study this. What if it's silent? It's the term is what is the cost of debt? We will use before tax or after tax. So there are various points of view on this one. I'll be mentioning mine based on my analysis, experience, and based on the information I got. So my view on this one is this after tax, because the fact that cost is used, it means that it is from the point of view of the corporation. And for the corporation, it has a cost, it has expense, but it has a savings also, because of the less taxes. So you need to integrate both. That's why cost of debt should be after tax. I talked with my three good friends, Brigham, Brealey, and Gitman, and basically they're not silent about this one. So they use cost of debt either explicitly before after tax, or cost of debt with some additional words which will lead us to say that this is before tax or after tax. Generally, it's after tax. For Brigham, he mentioned the term cost of debt for calculating WACC, or cost of debt including the tax deductibility of interest. So in these terms, it implies that it's after tax. For Gitman, he used the term net cost of debt, so after tax also. But if you Google images of WACC, you can see that the interest, when you say cost of debt, it pertains to the before tax, meaning the interest rate. I think the premise of that is in relation to the basic definition of interest, which is the cost of borrowing money. Okay? And also with my good friend, the most famous probably local author, Sir Bagayaw. Actually, we have a discussion before on this one, and we have different points of view, or different view. For him, it's before tax. That's why in the previous year, specifically I think last year, we've decided that for exam purposes, there will be no we will not be silent on the cost of debt. It should be explicitly stated. Okay? Next slide is on flotation costs. We initially discussed that flotation costs are cost of issuing new common stock. But remember, our focus on debt is it generally pertains to new debt. So whenever we issue new debt, we also incur flotation costs. But why is it that in most computations, or in general, we do not include it when we compute for the interest rate, specifically the YTM? It's because it's small and immaterial compared to the issuance cost for new common stock. However, in problems specifically, if it is given, if you have flotation cost, what will you do? You will affect it. In the YTM formula, there's the bond price. Also, when you use the when you compute for the YTM using the financial calculator or Excel file, since bond price is variable, you will deduct first the flotation costs from the bond price, so you get the net proceeds before you use it in the formula. Okay, so ibabawas siya yung flotation cost sa bond price. Okay. As I mentioned, if the flotation cost is given, you will deduct it from the bond price to get the YTM. Next is on the expected rate of return. Remember, in valuation of bonds, the expected rate of return can be the YTM or the YTC. What's the difference between the two? The YTM is the rate of return if you hold the bond until maturity, but the YTC is the rate of return if you hold the bond until it is called. And generally, which is higher? The YTM. YTC is lower because you will not complete to receive the payments because it's called. So, what is the better representation of the interest rate? Is it the YTM or the expected rate of return on debt? So basically, it's the expected rate of return on debt. So, because the expected return on debt or expected cost of debt considers the probability of default and callable provision. Okay? Yung mas makatotohanan na return on debt ang kukunin natin. Eh kung may default at i-call siya, edi yun lang yung kikitain ng bond mo, hindi yung buong YTM. Okay? However, we commonly use the YTM because we assume that the probability of default is low and that the bonds will not be called. That's why the expected rate of return on debt is your YTM. Okay? Okay, next is a sample illustration. So this is question problem 10-1 on page 359. If you watch the video first and you have not read the PowerPoint, or if you have read the PowerPoint but you skip this portion because you want to read the concepts, okay, so the first thing that you need to do is to pause this one, you look at the problem, then you try to answer, then you proceed with this one and look at the solution. Okay, done. So the problem states that you have 10% coupon rate and 12% YTM. The tax rate is 35%. What is the after-tax cost of debt? So again, between YTM and coupon rate, which is a better representation of the rate of return on debt? Of course, it's a YTM. So we use the 12% times 1 minus 35% or 0.65. The answer is 7.8%. But if the YTM is not given, the coupon rate is given, what is your answer? No, it's not automatic, the coupon rate of 10%. If the YTM is not given and the coupon rate is given, you try first to compute for the YTM if all the other information are given. But in this case, if we just remove the 12%, there are no other information to get the YTM. So if the 12% is not given, only the 10%, then we can assume that the 10% coupon rate is also the YTM. Okay? Next is on the cost of preferred stock. So again, just to review, what's a preferred stock? So it's a form of equity. It has both characteristics of debt and common stock. Debt being your dividend being fixed, but same with equity or common stock, that you're not required to pay for, if you're a corporation, you're not required to pay the dividends. Okay, so it's simple. Because preferred stock, you just get the dividend of the preferred stock over the price of the preferred stock. Okay, so we have no tax adjustments for preferred stock because the preferred stock dividend is not tax deductible, meaning we do not deduct the preferred dividends from to get the income before tax to lessen the tax. Okay, di ba pag nagko-compute naman tayo ng tax, hindi siya nakaka-apekto ang preferred dividends kasi after pa siya binabawas. So dividends are not tax deductible, not deducted for tax purposes. That's why there's no tax adjustment. Before we proceed with the sample illustration, I forgot to include this in the PowerPoint. Question: do we incur flotation costs for preferred stocks? The answer is definitely yes. Same with debt, we pertain to new debt, so there may be flotation costs. For preferred stocks, these are new stocks, so there are also flotation costs. But why is it that in some computations, problems, you do not see flotation costs for preferred stocks? It's because, probably similar with debt, it's quite small compared to the common stock, and it's possible that there are no preferred stocks because preferred stocks can be sold directly to investors. You do not need to go to a middleman or investment bank to sell this preferred stock. So it's one example that I've seen is if you directly sell preferred stocks to hedge funds. Remember hedge funds in chapter 2, financial markets? So hedge fund, just to review, it's like a mutual fund. They pull the funds, but the difference is that first, mutual funds are regulated, but hedge funds are unregulated. And usually hedge funds, as compared to mutual funds, they pool small amount of money. In hedge funds, they pool large amounts of money from few investors, but these investors are corporations or individuals which have high net worth. And basically hedge funds are used for hedging, for addressing risk. So you buy this type of funds for hedging. Okay, so we go to the sample illustration. So we go directly to a sample in the book. So again, it's 10-2, page 359. Pause this, read the problem, try to answer, and then you look at the solution. Done. Okay. Oh, sorry. In problem 10-2, you're given that your preferred stock, the price is 47.5, the dividend is 3.8. What is the cost of preferred stock or RP? You just divide 3.8 divided by 47.5, you get 8%. Next is on the cost of equity. So same with the cost of debt or after-tax cost of debt and cost of preferred stock, we begin with the investors' requirement. So we begin with the rate of return required by the shareholders, okay, or the R's of S. There are two sources of equity. You can use the retained earnings, the cumulative income, accumulated income, or you can use external source. You issue new common stock. Okay, it is quite clear why there's a cost when you issue new common stock, because when you issue new common stock, you need to pay, or your cost is a dividend, although it's not required. So you pay dividends to new shareholders if you have enough retained earnings. Okay? But if you use retained earnings as a source of fund, why is it there's a cost? The answer is the opportunity cost principle. Remember, if there are no capital expenditures, the retained earnings are owned by the shareholders, so they will receive this in the form of dividends. The dividends that they will receive, they may use it in or invest it in other productive activities, and they will earn a return on that. But because he used retained earnings, they lost the opportunity of receiving dividends and earning a return. So that lost rate of return on other investment, if they have received the dividend, is the opportunity cost. That's why we put the cost on the retained earnings or use of retained earnings as a source of equity capital. So the RS, or the cost of equity, if it pertains to the rate of return on retained earnings, or cost of retained earnings, or cost of internal equity. Okay, next is the ways to compute for the cost of equity, internal source, or cost of retained earnings. For the cost of new common stock or external equity, that will be discussed in Module 3. For Module 2, we will be focusing on the cost of retained earnings. The first method among the three is the CAPM. So you should remember this. It's the concept that you need to remember the most in Fin1. So it's risk-free rate plus beta times MRP. The next is on the bond yield plus risk premium method. So the formula is the bond yield plus risk premium. Bond yield is the interest rate on the corporate's bond. Interest rate on corporate bond. If you're a bondholder, you will buy the bond of corporation. The interest rate that you'll be earning there is the bond yield. And in chapter 6, we can compute this one by getting the quoted interest rate on a corporate bond. the inflation premium plus real risk-free rate of return plus the three other premiums: maturity risk premium, default premium, and liquidity premium. And then for the risk premium, unlike the risk premium in your CAPM, which is the beta times MRP, so it is a judgmental risk premium based on studies. So it's between 3 to 5% depending on the risk of the corporation. If the corporation is of low risk, you use 3%. If it has average risk, you use 4%. If it is of high risk, it's 5%. This second method is not mentioned by my two good friends, Brille and Gitman. It was also only mentioned by Brigham. Okay? And last one is using the dividend discount model, or the discounted dividend model, specifically the constant growth model or the Gordon model, in which you divide the expected dividend D1 over the stock price plus the growth rate or the capital gains yield. If the growth rate is not given, the formula is the flowback ratio or retention ratio times your ROE. Okay, next slide is on exercises in the book. First is theory 10-2, page 39. Again, you pause this for a while, you go to the question, you try to answer, then you compare, you proceed to this one, compare your answer with the suggested answer. Done? Okay. For 10-2 theory, the question is, if the risk-free rate will increase but the market risk premium remains constant, what will be the effect on the cost of debt and cost of equity? The answer, suggested answer, is both cost of debt and cost of equity will increase. Why? For the cost of debt, remember the computation of interest rate in chapter 6. You start with the real risk-free rate of return plus inflation premium, you get the nominal risk-free rate of return. So, if the risk-free rate will increase, definitely the interest rate will increase, hence the cost of debt will increase. As for the cost of equity, we use using the CAPM, we use their risk-free rate. Since the risk-free rate will increase and it's part of the CAPM formula, definitely the cost of equity will increase using the CAPM. Okay? Next is problem 10-6, page 360. So pause this for a while, you go back to the problem, answer, solve, then you go back to this and compare your answers. Done? Okay. For 10-6, you're given information on the stock price. First, the growth rate is 7%, stock price is 23 pesos, last dividend D0 is 2. You can compute for the D1, although it's already given, 2.14. Letter A, using the DCF model or the DDM, because DDM is a type of DCF, what is the cost of equity? So you just divide the D1, 2.14, divided by 23, plus 7%, you get 16.30%. Next question is on the, you're asked for the cost of equity using CAPM. The information given on the variables needed to compute for the cost of equity using CAPM are given: 1.6 beta, risk-free rate of 9%, return on the market of 13%. So the cost of equity using CAPM is 9% plus 1.6 times, close in parentheses, 13 minus 9% or 4%, you get 15.40%. And for the third question, you're asked for the cost of equity using the bond yield plus risk premium. You're given the bond return of 12%, interest rate on the corporate bond. And it is mentioned that you should use the midpoint. So most probably, the company is of average risk. So use 4%. So the formula or the computation solution is 12% plus 4% is 16%. As to the last question, it is assumed that you are equally confident to the inputs for the three. So what's the best method? Actually, the best method is the method which gives you the most confidence on the inputs. But since that your confidence on the inputs of the three are equal, then the best thing to do is to average the results. Average is 15.90%. Ideally, class, in a perfect world, the results for DCF, CAPM, and bond yield risk premium should be the same. But because of imperfections, differences in variables or factors which affect the inputs or estimates, then the three methods will give you different results. So again, the basic principle to apply is which among the three should be used, or which is the best, the one that will give you the best inputs. or the one in which you have the highest confidence for the inputs. Okay, for the DCF, the stock price can easily be seen in the stock market, but it's difficult to project the growth rate. For the dividend, probably you can look at the FS if there are projected increases in dividends, amount of dividends. For the CAPM, the risk-free rate is easy to determine. You can look at the T-bill rate. But for the beta and return on the market, yun yung medyo mahirap i-estimate yung forecast. For the module plus risk premium, of course, the interest rate, the premiums are estimated. And then for the judgmental risk premium, 3 to 5%, you never know if that range is still applicable at this time. Maybe it should be 4 to 6% or 5 to 7. So the forecasts of the variables or the inputs used in these three methods are difficult to ascertain if those are accurate. Okay. Next slide is on problem 10-8, page 360. So pause this, go to the problem, answer, then you go back to the suggested solution. Done. Okay, for 10-8, you're given the capital structure of 40% debt, 60% equity. The before tax cost of debt is 12%, tax rate is 40%. Stock price is 22.5. D0 is 2 pesos. Expected growth rate 7%. What is the cost of common equity and its WACC? So you just apply the formula for DDM. Okay, you get D1 2 times 1.07 divided by 22.5, the stock price plus 7% growth rate. Cost of equity is 16.51%. Then you just apply the WACC formula, 40% times interest rate of 12% times 1 minus 40%, the after tax rate plus 60% times 16.51, you get 12.79%. I put this as the last problem, although it's 10-3 because it's a workbook. So page 359. So pause for a while, then you go back after answering. Done. So for 10-3, your capital structure is 40% debt, 60% equity. The yield to maturity is 9%. Tax rate is 40%, and you're given the WACC of 9.96. So what is the cost of equity? So you just plot the variables given in the formula. Then the unknown is the RS, or the cost of equity. You just use algebra, you work it back, you get 13%.